Been always an engineer at heart. I like to think like that and build things, right? Did it for 2.5 years. We built a couple of things. Miserably failed through that deal. It was an $18 million acquisition. Because I worked with a lot of colleagues, and most of the times what I see is people don't like to come to work because they don't like what they are doing, right? And I just wanted to, business education is not only for the younger generation, the students which is coming up. Business education needs to go to like the real people who started business consulting. Everybody run it as a startup, right? But when you try to really scale, you need proper systems and you need the right strategies to do it, right? And that's about how do you scale, how do you like kind of enable people to do that scaling process, right? First is capital. You need money, right?
Okay,
like money in like good quantity, right? Second is the right people, right? These are the two things traditionally everybody kind of use in today's world. You having the right products and you having the right distribution media for it is a huge leverage. And piloted with few of the companies. And we realized that we are able to take their revenue from X to 10X. An organization, if you take 100 people, there will be 20 people who will be doing exceptional work.
Exactly.
They bring in the 80% of resources.
Yes, correct.
Other people will be everything. Called a bad husband also. So I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good father. And I want to be a good businessman. I want to build the best business education ecosystem in the world, right? Competing against even the Harvards and the Stanfords. And I believe that we can do it, right? If we put in the right minds to it, if we put the right frameworks to it.
Good morning, everyone. Today we don't have any external guest here, but one of my close friend and teammate Serin is here. I mean, one of the hosts of this program. So, hi Serin. We have been doing this with multiple experts, but right now, I want to know your journey. I mean, it's also very important. It was interesting when I got to know about you more, from the huddle. 1 year ago, right? We met from we met from the huddle, and that day, I felt very excited to know more about your journey. You told, you worked in a company like Zomato, then you started your own stuffs, and now you are with me also. So the journey was interesting. That's why actually, we had a detailed conversation to work together. So first, I would love to hear your journey from your side.
Sure, so happy to be here finally after a lot of conversations working together. I think we have been working together for last 8-9 months.
Yes.
And it has been an incredible journey. Talking a little bit about my journey, right? I'm basically an engineer, did my computer science and engineering. I've been always an engineer at heart. I like to think like that and build things, right? So started my career as a software developer. I was lucky to get a placement in a startup while I was in college itself. One of my friend's father wanted to start something, and he wanted to identify some of the people who would be the right fit for a startup culture, and he identified few of us who had that mindset, and I was really lucky to be part of that. Around 5 members selected from the entire college to be part of that. Started my journey there. I was a coder, building stuff there. Did it for 2.5 years. We built a couple of things. Miserably failed. We had built a couple of products in the area of, it was kind of a Zomato for jewelries, right? So all the jewelry is kind of a marketplace, right? So I was mainly focusing on building the tech of it, but where we miserably failed was basically at that point of time none of us did know what was marketing, branding, anything. Neither that founder, he himself didn't know. He was also a software engineer, so we were all thinking in the lines of how to build a product but not to market it, right? So miserably failed there. And after that, I, along with few of the friends there, right, we thought, hey, we'll move to Bangalore because Bangalore at that point of time and still now are it's a Silicon Valley of India, right? A lot of opportunities. Instantly, like within a week, we got an opportunity there, again in another startup. It was a service-based startup. So basically, it was kind of building products for other startups. Right? That was a simple concept in which that company was built.
Understood.
There, what I started doing is, I again, like my forte was building products, and I had hands-on experience building tech products. So what I did there was started in that. But later when I got a lot of exposure to start with founders at that point of time, right? So I used to go for the tech meetings along with the sales folks, and I used to be like kind of a CTO for them, and there will be a sales guy who's saying, hey, he's a CTO, he will be able to make all the products for you. And my previous exposure got me that chance to do that. And there I figured out that hey, building products is not only about coding something and building it. There's a lot around that, like building a team around it, how to do the right marketing, how to do the right branding, all those stuffs I started learning there, right? And it was a great exposure for me. At that point of time, I think I, like in a 3 years journey, we consulted to around 70 plus companies there, built like 50 plus products there, me and my team. And slowly I was promoted to the role of a CTO itself, because I had that acumen of building something and I had that business sense. And I told my founder then, like, hey, I was more interested in doing that kind of a role rather than sitting in front of a computer and coding all the day, right? So then he gave me that exposure, and that resulted in like building around 50 products, and some of the products in that really took off, right? Some of them went to serious A funding and like really took off, and that gave me a lot of confidence in terms of, hey, how do you really build products and how do you start like thinking around taking to scale, right? So yeah, that was the starting stages. We did it for three and a half years there. I was there for three and a half years. But after that, I think service companies, the major issues again, like fund flows. One of our clients, he defaulted on payments, and it was around like a huge payment, 2.5 lakhs. And that kind of completely like hit the pipeline of our entire projects and stuff. Like we were not able to pay salaries at that point of time. And we really struggled. And at one point of time, the core team took a decision that like, hey, this seems like we are moving from paycheck to paycheck. We are not able to scale this beyond a point of time. We had to shut it down again. And that was the end of that story.
Okay.
I'm making it a bit longer so that you get to see the complete journey, right? And then I had made a decision that like when I go to companies, right? So I've learned the building part of things. I understood how to build products, how to do marketing. Then I kind of chose a company which is more of like I want to work in product companies, right? Apart from the service companies, I want to work in product companies. So what I did is I started looking out for opportunities. And luckily again, one of my friends referred me saying that, hey, like there's a guy like this, and that company which he was working then, they were building a product in B2B space, basically a marketplace for caterers, right? Caterers, right? So whatever you see the caterers, right? Like the wedding caterers, that's what we have typically seen. But what these guys did is, big companies, right? For example, companies like Accenture, IBM and all those stuff, they have huge workforce, right? Like 10,000 employees, 5,000. And for them, food is a major problem, right? Because they want to provide quality food to their employees. Because otherwise what happens is like people mainly come for food and like other perks, like work in these companies, right? So food is a big part of those companies. So and in that space, what happened was there was no quality food, right? There was a very unorganized sector, right? So what these guys did, it made it organized, created a marketplace of caterers. They kind of curated them for quality and also variety, and told these companies, hey, we have a bunch of caterers who are curated on variety and quality. We will supply you, we'll take a commission on it, right? And also one thing that we did is we built a tech also around it, right? So made it very easy for people in these companies to order these foods so that they can skip the lines, make the payment easier and all that stuff. We made that whole stack, right? And that was a huge white space in Indian market at that point of time.
Okay.
And we as a team realized it. And when I joined that company, they were in a stage where they had got basic product market fit. They understood there was a problem. but they were not able to build a tech or able to scale it. And they brought me in as a head of product there, and I got the opportunity to build a team around it to scale it.
What was the team size that time?
So when I came in, it was just three tech people, right? And I was there. And when I came in, I built that team to around 10 people. I brought in designers, I brought in tech people, I brought in like people in the DevOps area. And because I was able to know a couple of people who had earlier worked with me, so I brought all of them here. In 8 months, we scaled the product and we got a huge deal across the country, right? And at one point of time, I think we were doing only 5,000 or 3,000 orders when I came in. At one point of time, we hit like 1.5 lakh orders per day. Right? And people started noticing it, right? And at that point of time, Zomato was in food space, and they started like mailing us for like kind of talks for an acquisition, right? And me and our founders at that point of time, like since we had that quality and like the tech everything built, luckily we were able to get through that deal. It was an $18 million acquisition, right? We got a wonderful deal there, and we went into Zomato. And there I was again part of our sub team there and did it for 1.5 years. So that's a bit of my early journey. I think I made it a bit longer, but from there I did I think I was trying a couple of other growth stage companies like Gojek and all, again where I was playing a lead product role kind of a thing. And at one point of time I decided, hey, I want to start up something on, because I always believe that anybody who really want to work in this world, they should be doing work that really they really love doing, right? Because I have worked with a lot of colleagues, and most of the times what I see is people don't like to come to work because they don't like what they are doing, right? And I realize that if I'm able to give them the right job track they are interested in, people start working really hard.
Yes.
And that is a vision I always wanted to solve for, and that's how I started my coaching startup. But I was all alone in that whole journey. I was able to did a mark in that journey, but I felt it bit solo. I didn't enjoy that single founder kind of a role. I wanted a team always around me to work, because that's what excited me to come day to day to work beyond a vision. And that's how we met, and I felt like your journey is kind of aligned to that, where you are trying to solve people who wanted to really work in the business space. Correct. You were giving the best kind of support for that, like the right kind of education, right kind of upskilling for it. I felt like that, hey, like solve this larger vision. There is a smaller vision I can part of be. And then we can always scale, right? And I felt like you had an amazing team, and I thought like, why not join? Because it's aligned to my vision and stuff, right? And that's how it also happened. Slightly longish, but this is the entire journey.
It's great, like, to know your journey. Like, I mean, even I haven't this much detailed information with me, but it's good. Like, and I mean, even I would love to have more detailed, understanding about your experience from Zomato and Gojek, this sort of companies.
Yes.
And what kind of, what are the key learnings you had from that companies?
Yes. So till now, I think I was talking more about my startup journey. But one of the things that happened, like after I joined Zomato, was things were very different there, right? The key difference I'll tell you is, like, earlier it was, there will be a room like this, all the team will be there, and the communication is super easy, right? From that, like, I've done that for 6 years. From that, like, going to a larger company where there are 5,000 to 6,000 employees, it was a huge shift in terms of the experience, right? So I'll tell you, the major shift was primarily in the communication itself, right? Where things have been spoken like direct face to face started going through Slacks now. Everything started becoming online. Things have completely changed, right? And I have had like very bad experiences also. So I remember one experience, like while I was working in I think Gojek. So I didn't way back then know what was calendar, Google Calendar, because I was not used to that, right? And I remember one of my managers, he called me and he had scheduled a meeting with me. So I got an invite in the calendar, but I didn't know it was a meeting invite because I am only used to a physical meeting, right? And what happened was, like, he called me and I was not there in the meeting room at that point in time. So calendar has this option to put a meeting room and it has an option to put a timing and all that stuff. I didn't know that there is a meeting room embedded in it. And I somehow realized that it was a meeting and I was searching for rooms, right? And I kind of went to that meeting 5 minutes late. And he just blasted me, right? And saying, hey, like, what are you doing here? Like, you are in a very senior position. You don't know how to, like, even come for a meeting on time. And I was literally like, I didn't know this was the thing. And I couldn't tell him, right? And the reason I tell this story is because that's how drastically things change, right? When you work from a startup to a bigger company. You need there will be a lot of systems, processes, everything to enable communication and better working together, right? You can no longer work as a bunch of people in a single room, right? And it has its own etiquettes, it has its own rules, it has its own systems, processes, everything, right? And that was a huge shift for me. And like, this was one experience. I have had many experiences like this. I'll tell you one more experience which I had, right? So there were 3 companies that I worked in large scale. So one is Zomato. After that, I had worked in a company called Foodpanda, which was a Singapore-based food delivery giant in Southeast Asia. There, my role was, like, I was again leading one of their products. It was called the pickup vertical. There, I had to literally work with people from 8 different countries. Right, so there are people from different geographies, and for building that one just app, right, like, which is like from registrations to like the order being placed, there are 8 different kind of teams. And for me to maybe build a feature, I need to align all these different teams, right? Which means that literally it is like going for meetings with all these people, getting it prioritized in the roadmap. So earlier it was like, I sit in a room, I tell them, hey, like, I want to build a feature, we all come together, build that feature, release. Now it's like, in 3 months, right, we have a quarterly plan. When I'm planning, I need to align these 8 teams. Convince them that this feature, if all of us do, we will be able to get results. If I'm not able to convince them, that feature never gets released, right? So basically convincing them to getting that work done by continuously following up, doing meetings, everything was drastically a very different experience for me. And I literally failed at that in the first shot, right? I didn't know how to do it, right? And that was one of the reasons why I had to exit that second company, which was like which is Foodpanda, like, because I didn't know how to work in like distributed teams, right?
Okay, so that's why you exited.
Yeah, that's why I exited that team, and then later joined Gojek, right? So Zomato happened. After that, 1.5 years, I exited that. I was looking for other growth stage companies because I want to work in a larger organization now. Went to Foodpanda, had this very bad experience because I was not ready for it, right? And then I joined Gojek. By that time, what happened is I learned all the kind of how to work in a distributed teams, and I did really well there, right? So in Gojek, what happened was I was again like part of a single product. I was owning one of their logistics division, and when I came in, I had this. The first assignment I had was to launch their product in international markets, which is Thailand, Vietnam, in one shot. And the manager told me, hey, like, there's a project like this going on. It was called Athena at that point of time. I didn't know what it meant. So Athena he told me there is a project like Athena. You need to launch in 3 months in international market. That's what he told me. And then I was like, how do I launch a product without even knowing what is the product, what is the features, who's the team? And I was like, how am I going to do this? And then he told me, you start having meetings with everybody, right? So then I literally started doing meetings. And he was a manager at that point of time who gave me everything, told me, hey, you can do this. I'm not going to interfere in anything. You launch it at the 3rd month, that's it. Whatever support you need, just ask me, but I'm not going to interfere in any of your day-to-day matters. And then I had to literally figure out everything. Right? I went for meetings. I used to sit with 8 different teams or like 10 different teams. work with the project manager of this thing. And yeah, it was a kind of a mind-blowing experience, and somehow we made it in 3 months.
Wow.
Because
what was that actually?
Yeah, so it was basically, so we were going international, right? So Gojek was only in Indonesia at that point of time, and Gojek wanted to take in international markets. So Gojek is basically, just to give an intro, Gojek is basically a super app in Indonesia. It actually contributes, it's 2% of GDP. It's huge, right? Mostly everybody use their Gojek in that country for everything, right? Like for ordering taxis to ordering food to making payments, everything is in one single app. So they were great in Indonesia, but they wanted to expand into other countries. And yeah, and they were kind of like, at that point of time they had the plan already, so that's the interesting part. I was just tasked to like launch it, and then
so same product, same service, expanding to
other markets. But that was not an easy task at all, because the product was built only for a country, right? So I'll tell you some examples, right? The payments in the other countries are not the same. The kind of behavior in that country is not the same. So basically it meant revamping the complete
interface thing. Also need to be
interface need to be tweaked. Lot of things, right? Like literally changing features to adapting to that new geography, to changing the payments, scaling the product, right? Everything had to be done, right? So it was a huge collaborative effect, and somehow, like, with the help of the team and again with the help of the manager, I was able to pull that off.
Wow.
And that's so coming back to your question, right? The biggest thing when you work with bigger companies is like it's all driven by systems, processes, right? The way you work in a startup to where you work in a bigger company is completely different, right? And you need to know what are the etiquettes of it. You need to really build those systems, and that's what will make you scale in that way, right? So that was my biggest learning there. Yeah.
Yes, that's great. And of course, after you came here, you were interacting with many SMBs owners, right?
Yeah.
So what is the major challenge or problem you identified in that sector? I mean, you got the exposure in startups and big companies, and also what is that? Yeah,
so just to give a context, when I came here, my task was to start a consultancy wing here as part of the AMR. So AMR had already its sector or like product for students. And one thing that we believed, right, as founders or like as part of the team, is like business education is not only for the younger generation of the students which is coming up. Business education needs to go to like the real people who does business.
Exactly.
Right? So that's the thought process behind how we started business consulting. And we did a bit of research around it, did pilots, and that's how we started. And when, like, to come back to your questions, right, like when we started interacting with SMBs, right, again the biggest problem that they face is the same thing that I spoke in the previous journey, right? Most of the SMBs are in a state where they are in a kind of startup mode, right? So where there are people, like a couple of people around them, they are kind of managing it in a way that, hey, like I can talk to the other person, get it done, right? But the biggest problem with that is after a point of time, right, that's not scalable, right? You can't again grow your business, neither you can't be peaceful as a founder, right? And this is the two major areas that we started tackling in, right? So how do you kind of scale your business to take your products to the next level? New geographies, expansion, diverse set of products and all those stuff. Second is how do you enable the whole thing through a correct and proper system, right? So that's the biggest challenge I've seen in the SMB sector also, right? Like everybody run it as a startup, right? But when you try to really scale, you need proper systems and you need the right strategies to do it, right? And that's the two biggest problems, I think. And the core thing of that problem is again lack of this knowledge about how do you scale, how do you like kind of enable people to do that scaling process, right? That's why the biggest struggle is, right? And that's what we are trying to solve through our consultancy arm, Elevate. Yeah.
So most of them are running like people driven, still it's not system driven. That's the major challenge to scale the
correct
venture, right? So that's great. And of course, you got a lot of exposure in product area. And you talk about media also.
Yeah.
So I would love to know, like, what is the combination, how that combination works, like, even you can go more deeper in the product side, like, what is the MVP and all.
Yes. So one of the things that I've learned through my journey and also through reading around these topics is, in today's world, there are 4 forms of leverage. Right? This is something which even Naval speaks about. Naval is actually one of the investors in Uber. So what he tells is, like, there are 4 types of leverage. Right? One is human capital. So if you have a lot of capital, you can build or scale any business. Right? Second form of leverage is, if you have the right people, you can again scale the business.
Okay.
Right?
First
is capital. You need money.
Money.
Right?
Okay.
Like money in like good quantity. Right. Second is the right people.
Yes.
Right? These are the 2 things traditionally everybody kind of use in order to scale their business. Right. So they either depend on huge capital investments or people. Right. Beyond this, in today's world, the 2 things that you really required in order to really grow fast and scale your businesses. One is product. Right. The reason why I'm talking about product is, imagine that you have a product, right, which works for you even in the night. Right. So for example, let's say a chatbot. Right. So initially it might be your people. Right. So coming back to the example, you will have a people to take the customer calls. Right. Because customer support is an important part. So customers calls, customer support guys talk, solve the problem. Right. But after 4 or 5, he's not there. Right. So how do you scale your business?
Exactly.
Now come the point that, hey, if you have a tech product there, like imagine you have an AI bot, right, which automatically answers his queries through text messages, and at one point of time, if we want to make a call, this bot again answers like a real person. We just need to feed in the data. Means that system is completely automated, right? So what happens is, you will be able to scale your customer support 24/7, right? And that is a huge leverage for you as a business, right? And imagine you are able to solve all the problems that way without even any human interference. It's a huge advantage for you, and you start leading in that sector, right? So that is why products are very important in today's world to scale your business, right? And this is just one example. Similarly, in all areas of your business, right, you need the right products to scale, right? Second is the last layer which I was talking about is media or like distribution, right? You need visibility, right? So imagine that, like, I am running, like when we started consulting, right? One of the things that we started doing is, we created an Instagram page around it. We started talking about 2-3 different things, right? One is, hey, what are the problems in this space? Like, people need to know, hey, this is a problem. Some people don't know what this is a problem, right? Second is, they need to know there is a solution like this, right? And third is, they need to know there is a product to solve it, which is our programs, right? Like, which is our scale-up program, which is our 1:1 consulting, all these things, right? And even this podcast, right? Where we are sharing ideas. And if people are able to see it, and if we are able to bring this distribution, right, or share these ideas to the world, imagine there is 1 lakh people who see this, right? They'll come to know about these problems. They know there is a solution like this. They come to know like out of maybe 1 lakh, like around 10,000 people might be like exploring our services. Maybe 100 people will buy your product, right? So that's a huge distribution leverage you have, right? And what happens tomorrow, at one point of time, you will no longer needed a sales team, right? Because everything come through your podcast channel, or everything will come through your media channel, because they are able to really see what we are doing here. They will come to know what is the quality of our work, what kind of things we are capable of, and they will trust us, right? Because if you look at traditional businesses again, right, which is not driven by a media, right, they really don't know. So for example, let's take like other consultancy firms, right? Imagine that they don't have a distribution media or a media channel to talk about it. The only way that this person will be able to know about a consultancy is maybe talking to that sales guy. And the sales guy might tell n number of things to get the sales. There is no way to trust that guy, right? And how will that client make a decision? Right? Whereas what we are doing is, we are talking about, hey, what are the problems that we solve? How do we solve it? What is our quality? What are the kind of people we have? Everything, right? And build a huge trust factor in the clients. And that's the best way to get the clients, right? So that is why I always tell, like, in today's world, you having the right products and you having the right distribution media for it, it's a huge leverage. And all the businesses, right, like not only startups, SMBs, everybody should start leveraging it, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's the concept. Yeah.
That's great. Like, I mean, now we started podcast. I mean, this is part of the media, right?
Correct. Yes.
So there, I mean, one more question, like, in this area, product part, how do we come up with the, a good product, and what is the step to get into the final product? I mean, one good product. I mean, can you explain that part?
Yeah. So one of the things I believe is, I think all my career also, I've been like working in customer-centric companies, where customers' inputs are the starting point of everything, right? So what I have seen for the best products that come out in the world is, it's always based on one problem that either the founder faced or their customers have told them, right? So it is like in our case, right, when we started the consulting thing, right? Like one of the starting point for us was also like a lot of people that we associate with, right? When being a this thing, B school, a lot of we associate a lot of people from investors to a lot of businesses. People do businesses, right?
Corporate team.
Yeah, corporate team and everything. And what we have heard from these people is their biggest challenge is, one is they don't have the right people, right? Which is what we are trying to solve through our B school program. Second is they don't have access to experts in order to solve these kind of strategy problems or scale up things, right? And people started talking about it to us, right? And that is the way we started hearing that, and we also one point did pilots around it, right? So people started talking to us saying that, hey, we have these problems. And what we did is, like, we did few pilots, which I call MVPs, minimum viable products, right? So before we do a full-fledged launch of any product, we actually start building small things, right? Let's say, like, we started doing small-scale consulting, right? So take few of our friends or businesses which we know, help them out, right? And see if we are able to bring results, right? So what we did was, like, we piloted with few of the companies, and we realized that we are able to take their revenue from X to 10X. And that's a huge leverage they have, right? Like, by bringing in this thing, they are able to grow their drastically. We have a lot of stories to tell, right? Like the meme story. Meme again was a company that is around in and around Marcus Knowledge City. They started with 3,000 students. Today they are around 30,000 students.
Exactly.
Right? And we have clients like Mom's Care, No Broker, right? All these companies that our experts associate with, where we were able to bring huge change. Right? And that gave us validation that, hey, like, if we do this, so there is a problem. If we do this kind of right things, which is our product services, they are able to get results. And that's how we realize that, hey, now we need to start building a product or a business around it, right? So for me, it is that, right? Like, listening to the customers closely, and running pilots around it, running MVPs or minimum lovable products, right? And experiment it, get results of it, and see if there is larger number of people who wanted this kind of a service, and then build a business, right? And that's a fund of it, right? Basic way to probably build any products or businesses.
That's great.
So
one thing I noticed in when we discuss anything, like, you learned somehow the structured thinking, like, when you talk, I mean, you talk 1, 2, 3 always. So how did you learn that? I mean, from where did you learn this?
So this again come back to my bad experiences, right? So I told you the journey of how I worked in startups to how I suddenly came to a larger company. So when I went to a larger company, what started happening was, I will still like talk a lot of these gyans to them. I'll tell you there is something like this. I'll start telling like 1 hour story to them. Then I'm like, bro, I don't have time, right? Like, you tell me points in 1, 2, 3. Like, I'll give you 5 minutes, nothing more than that. So I have to adapt to that situation. I had it I had that thing. There is no way you can survive there without adapting to this. And then I started thinking like that, right? Hey, what are the top 3 things I'll tell this person so that he'll get my attention, so that I can tell the long story to him, right? So that's the basic funda, right? And one more thing that happened was, when we worked in companies like, when I worked in companies like Gojek and all, they had this practice that whenever you wanted to launch something or start to discuss something, you need to write a 6-pager on it, right, or a 3-pager on it. So you need to write down, hey, this is what you need to build, what, like, why you're building it, what you need to build that, how will you build it, give that presentation to them, and that's when they'll start even listening to you. Right?
Yes.
So it's a survival mode, right? There is no way I can get my ideas through them without being structured. And that's how I learned that, right? Like I couldn't survive without that, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, I told you, right, one of the companies where I had to exit early, which is my shortest duration in my career, 6 months, that happened because of that. I was not able to think structurally according to a larger organization's policy, right? So it's a survival thing, right? Okay. I learned it through.
Have you done anything differently for that? Like, any practices or?
Yeah, so I kind of do deep research around it, right? In terms of, hey, how do you do effective presentations? How do you write better stories?
Okay.
How do you tell the right stories? What will attract them? So, for example, this comes in marketing also, right? So the framework is, you need to start with a hook, right? An interesting thing that which should catch his attention.
Yeah.
Then you should tell what is the problem, right? Because when people hear the problem, that's when they start listening.
Yes.
Then you tell the solution.
Yes.
Right. Then the next steps. Right. So kind of those kind of frameworks in mind while you're talking, when you're writing, because that helps in easily communicating to the other person. And I continuously do research around it. I continuously keep learning different concepts in that. That's the way I kind of deep learn on that. Yeah.
So is there any like books that can refer to the audience, like, which help to improve this skill?
Yeah. So I think one of the books that really changed my perspective recently is there is this concept called mental models.
Mental models.
Yeah. So for example, one example I'll tell you is Pareto principle. It's one of the mental models, right? So what it tells is, so if you look at 100 people in an organization, or let's say like the effort you put into something, right? So the like 20% of the things that you do is what brings you the 80% of results.
Yes.
Right. So those kind of things, right? Like or like I'll tell you one simple thing. In an organization, if you take 100 people, there will be 20 people who will be doing exceptional work.
Exactly.
They bring in the 80% of results.
Yes, correct.
Other people will be in a survival mode, right? And your job as a founder or a team is to bring all the people, like increase that bar, right? So these are some of the mental models, right? In the these are deeply researched models in the world where there are these kind of behaviors that exist in the world, right? So so these mental models, if you know how it will help you is when you're building an organization or when you are trying to do something, right? You know for a fact that this is how the world functions.
Interesting.
Now you need to build the right system to break that.
Yes.
Right. And that was a huge eye opener for me. Right. So there is a book called I think it's called Thinking Big or something. Or like if you just search mental models, you will get hundreds of mental models, and you just need to know that. Like the top 50, if you know, then your decision making will be super easy.
Understood.
Right. So this is one of the best books that I kind of read. I occasionally read a lot of books. Currently, I'm reading a book called Ogilvy in Advertising, because currently I am working on a lot of marketing campaigns and stuff like that. So Ogilvy is basically, I don't know if it's pronounced the right way. This guy is known as the father of marketing. So there are a lot of concepts on how to write the right hooks, how to write the right copies. So you can bring the right audience to your product, right? So that's what recently I'm reading on. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And after Goje, I think you started your own venture, So of course, you were having a big number of huge salary and all that.
Yes,
comfortable life.
Yeah.
From there to the this risky game. What was your motive to take that decision?
Yes. So one of the things that I've been always thinking when I was working even in my first company was I always wanted to do something on my own. Right? Because what makes me wake up every day is I want to work on something which I am excited about. And what happens when you go to larger organizations is you get pulled in different directions, right? So somebody will tell, hey, work on this project. Another person will tell, hey, work on this project. And you will have no idea why you are doing that, right? What is the purpose of doing that, right? And then that thought made me think at one point of time. So when I exited Gojek, I had some money in my bank account at that point of time. I was able to survive at least. I told, hey, this is the best time I can take a risk, because I mean, like, I have a kid also, he's growing. At one point of time, I might not even be able to take that risk. So this is the best time to take that risk. I thought, hey, why not start something on my own? So I was thinking about ideas in terms of like, what can I do? And I actually literally wrote down, right, this decision, right? So I made a financial plan saying that, hey, I'll have a runway of like 5 years. If this doesn't work, then I can still go back to corporate, right? I made a plan like that. And then I looked at what are the other things. What is the product that I should work? Is it aligned to my vision? Right? So both these things are aligned, right? So I had some financial backup. I had a good idea to work up. And I didn't want anybody to work on that. I can only do that, right? So, and it was an area which I was interested in, which is coaching. That's something which one of my passion areas. So what I did was, hey, like, I started writing content around it, right? So basically the startup idea was 1:1 coaching for product managers, because that was what I was doing all my life in my career. So I started writing content around it. So what I did is I started writing interesting experiences in my past on, like, how did I get into a very interesting company? How did I solve this problem? How did I get an interview call from Facebook? How did I kind of cracked Google's interview? I started writing about those kind of things, right? And people started finding it very interesting.
I noticed few posters got good reach.
Yes. Right? So there was one post that I wrote, like, how did I get an interview call from Facebook, right? So basically, I use a lot of these growth hack techniques, right? So for example, like, to tell the story of how I got into Facebook interview, get their interviewers, I started listing down who are all the best or leading Facebook hiring folks in the LinkedIn platform. So I started listing down all those things, right? And then I started tracking their posts, right? Like, hey, what do they do? What kind of posts they write? What are they excited about? I looked at their like profile, what all things they write about. And then there is an option in LinkedIn where you can click a bell icon so that you started getting their post. When they post, you get an initial notification, immediate notification. So what I started doing is I started like liking their posts, commenting on it and all that stuff. So there was one time where one of these hiring managers, they put a post around they are hiring for, not hiring. So this whole transition, right? Facebook was renaming to Meta. So that they put a post around it. So I wrote my concept on how this would help that company. What is the impact on this in the larger world's vision and all. I wrote a nice post around it. And this guy noticed me. And like once he noticed me, I saw he came and checked my profile and all that stuff. What I did was, and at that point of time, I had optimized my profile for getting into Facebook. I have written the complete story. The profile was optimized for getting into Facebook. Right? And he was impressed with my profile. And then I shot a message him directly saying, like, I'm looking for opportunities in Facebook because I was excited about your whole vision. And instantly he told me, hey, I'll connect you to the hiring team. And in 2 days, they actually called me for an interview. And then I started interviewing with them, right? So I wrote about this in that LinkedIn and people were like, oh, this guy from somewhere in a remote village in Kerala, he's able to get into an opportunity in London, Facebook. And they were excited, hey, there is something good, something he can share to me, right? And what I did was, after, so this got around 50-60K views. Then like in the comment I put that, hey, I'm doing like free mentorship calls. Right? Below this thing I put. And people started clicking on it, coming to my mentorship calls. I gave them free mentorship call. And towards the end I told, hey, like if you want to work with me or like you want my help with this thing, I have another interesting 1:1 program which is priced at X pen. I put a premium pricing for it. People started buying it. Right? So then I thought, hey, there is an interesting opportunity there. Why not I build a startup around it? And that's how the whole startup thing happened. I did it for like 1 year and all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I actually took that risk to how that journey went actually. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
So, you were talking about your kid, right? I mean, of course, I mean, when we do this sort of startups and all, a lot of our time required in the initial stage for sure. So, how did you balance your work and life?
Yeah. So that's a problem or like something which I keeps thinking every day, because I'm a person who like to balance everything, right? I don't want to like at one point of time called a bad father, maybe when I'm in my deathbed, right? This is something which I think, right? Neither I don't want to be called a bad husband also. So I want to be a good husband, I want to be a good father, and I want to be a good businessman, right? These are the three things I want. So what I figured out is, if you want to be all three of them, there is one thing like you will have to compromise on each of these at different points of time, and it's okay, right? And I constantly struggle with that, right? Like at one point of time I do a lot of work on the business side, and this plate might go down. Then I kind of fix it, balance it, and then this plate might go down. So that's there, right? And then I figured out there is something called time boxing, right? So if you really plan your day, right? So for example, now what I do is I kind of plan the whole thing, right? Like how my mornings are, to how my like the work hours, how my evenings should be. And if I am able to plan it that way and to kind of stick to that time schedule, this can be solved to a particular extent. Right? So that's what I have experimented and what has worked for me till now, right? So yeah, that's going on. Yeah.
So you plan your day every day. I mean, so what is your usual routine?
Yeah. So I was not a person who used to wake up early, even though I had the intention. I was struggling to get the right motivation to do it. And interestingly, what happened is in our first podcast, we spoke, and I heard that your routine is around like you start at 3:45 or something. I was like, wow, that's great, right? And I was struggling with this problem, and I thought, hey, like if I want to like solve some of my time problems, maybe I can start early. Right? Yeah. So recently, I've started getting up like at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Earlier also I used to do, but I was not very consistent. I keeps like some days I would get up, some days I won't get up. Now, the last 1.5 months, I've started making it a routine, right? Wow. So I don't put alarms. I kind of sleep at 10, sleep at 10. And now I started automatically getting up at 5, right? And then I get a good 2.5 hours before everybody gets in to do some of my work, which I'm passionate about, which is like reading, like browsing internet, all the stuff, which earlier I was doing after work, right? So what used to happen is I come after work, I used to sit on like reading something or like doing some work, and my wife used to say, hey, like you've done the whole day there, you don't have time to spend with us. So I was struggling with that. So I kind of solved that problem through like putting that back to my early time slot, right? So that's how I'm trying to solve for and kind of making time for most of the things I wanted to do in life.
So evening are you spending with family?
Yeah, so evening my now current routine is I go after work. So like 6 I reach at home. Me and my wife play shuttle for a while, 6 to 6:45. My kid will also be there, he'll be playing around. After that, we spend some time maybe cooking and like maybe chatting on some stuff. Call family, like my parents and all. 9 to 9:30 prayers and maybe like some watching film and stuff like that. 10 we are mostly in the bed now. We kind of solved it a bit. I don't know how long it will go, but I'm sure that this routine has really worked for me, right? So that's what I do currently.
So, what is your current vision, your personal vision? Of course, we collaborated for some future ventures and all. That is there. So beyond that, I mean, of course, you are having some personal vision. That's why you came to that picture, right?
Correct. Yes. So my vision has always been one of the personal problems or things that is based on my long-term vision, which is helping people reach in a career which they love to do. Right? That's my larger vision. And I believe that, again, as I said earlier, if they do the work that they really love doing, they would be able to be satisfied with it, and they will be able to give best results to the world, right?
Yes.
So that's my vision always. And what I've seen as a sub-vision of that is in a business world, like that's an area which I am also personally excited about. I can contribute to. So that's why I thought like, hey, like work on that piece of it, right? So in this larger vision of making everybody work on areas that they are passionate about, pick one area and start working on it, right? And see that if you can solve that problem for real, right?
Yes.
And if I'm able to solve that problem for real, I can always scale it to other areas, right? So for example, tomorrow somebody want to get into, let's say, an art, right? Or let's say some other profession, right? Like creative work. I can implement the same model there also because the frameworks would be the same, right? So that's the idea, right? Like it's a sub piece of this whole vision, which is why I'm really excited about it. And I personally have written down in my diary that, hey, like for the next couple of years, right? I have not put a limit to it. I want to build the best business education ecosystem in the world, right? Competing against even the Harvards and the Stanfords. And I believe that we can do it, right? If we put in the right minds to it, if we put the right frameworks to it, we can do it, right? And I think we are already somewhere in that track already, right? Because we have the right, we have things like the right business school, which is a kind of a foundation for it. We have our consultancy arm. We have our own unique networking, this thing. We have mass consulting programs. We have our media thing. We have already laid a foundation for it. Right? Now it's just about like kind of putting in bit more work to like start scaling it and bring the best people in the world to execute on it, right? So yeah, I think we are already on the way in the journey. Yeah. So
I mean, even we know this, but I just want to get the audience also this information. That's why. So is there, I mean, like, you know, I mean, any advice that you can share to the, you know,
the audience,
younger audience?
Yeah, I think it's one advice I have is again aligned to this vision, right? Which is like keep looking. So I've been like an avid fan of Steve Jobs, like so. From 11th standard when I got a computer, I've started seeing his videos, his speeches, how he built products. I've been like a huge fan of his philosophies, his books, his stuff, right? And one of the things that he tell always is always like work on something that you are excited about, right? You have only one life, right? So when you are in your deathbed, don't regret for a fact that, hey, you haven't done anything, right, in this whole world, right? So you should be like, and for that the only thing is you pick what you are interested in, and you will not find it in the first shot. You will not even find it in the 10th shot, but keep looking for it, right? You will make hundreds of mistakes, but if you have that mindset, you will keep looking for it, and one day you will find it, and before you reach the deathbed, you will have figured it out, and you would have done something in that, and that will inspire you to like rest in peace, right? So I think that's what I want to tell to the world, right? Like instead of you going behind the flow, right? Start looking for things that you are excited about. And you just put in some effort to it, you will definitely reach there, right? And you will make mistakes on the way, and that's how the world functions. Although you will not get it in the first shot, but you keep trying multiple times, and you will be there soon. So so that's what I wanted to tell to the audience.
One of the quote I actually posted in my wall. I mean, my working wall, like, you know. Act now, don't regret later. So that's like, you know, I mean, always, I mean, remember me, like, you know, do act now, like, you know, then I can't miss my time. And also, similarly, when this is quite interesting, like, you know.
I think we all have very limited time, right? So this is the exact quote which I had written earlier, right? Remembering that you are going to die is the best way to avoid the trap of knowing that you have something to lose. Right?
You have
very limited time in this world. So
Understood.
start working on it, right? Like,
Yes,
so
yes.
there is no time to lose, right? And start doing things that you really love doing, be it like in business, be it in life, being in the best, like getting the best people in your life along with you in the journey. So like literally, like even how I selected my partner is based on this philosophy, right? So I wanted to be with her, and I felt like, hey, she's the right partner for me, and that's how I use the same philosophy everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I want to tell the audience also, right?
Yes.
It has worked for me. You guys can maybe try out and see if it works. I'm sure that it will not go for a toss, right? This attitude will really help you at least reach that destination you wanted to, right? So
Great, yeah. Nice. I mean, it was actually nice to talk to you, and of course to know your journey and your future vision. Of course, I think we'll be working together for the journey. Like,
excited about it.
Yeah, excited. Yeah. So thank you for the timing, and thank you guys, and of course please subscribe for more to get more excited journeys like this. So for more inspiring videos, please subscribe our channel. See you soon.